So, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. So, I'm just going to kind of piggyback a little bit what Miss Katie said and kind of just explain a few things as well. Um, like did say, is that we do kind of change a little bit of our classes. Sometimes we talk about these topics. And also the pacing, I kind of try to follow how you guys are feeling. So if you are feeling really overwhelmed, like that's a lot of signs, we will definitely slow it down. We may not do as many signs compared to what we typically do. We're very flexible on that. So just let us know, especially like she said, if there's any specific topics you're interested in, let us know and we can always try to figure out where to put it. Some of the classes we've had to kind of modify to make it work, but we're willing to do that. What was I gonna say? There's something else I was gonna say. Oh, there are no silly questions
Mm,
ever. And so one of the big things I like to always talk about is how with ASL, you also have a lot of connection with the deaf culture. And so with that, sometimes people, well, let me back up. ASL and deaf culture go together. There's really no like separation of it. They are very connected. And with that, I like to also always add a few things here and there, just about deaf culture in general, just to kind of have a little bit more information about how this would work in a conversation and also just how like you would approach with yourself and how others may kind of approach with you. And so, with that, I always leave it to be if you are ever curious about anything, even if you're curious, would this be insulting to a deaf person? Or how does a deaf person want to be identified as? Things like that. And you're always kind of worried, would I offend someone? This is a safe space. You are more than welcome to ask those questions. And I will tell you if that would be offensive or not, given either by my experience or I have coworkers who are deaf. I work at a deaf school. Just from what I've seen, just to kind of help build that being more comfortable. Because I know sometimes people can be very, it's a new culture, it's a new everything. And so I want to be able to build that where feel a little bit is not so shocking. I am reading the comment. If you see me doing like a lot of my head movements, I'm a teacher. I typically move around, but also I have two dogs that love to move around constantly and get my attention, and they can be distracting. And then also to read the messages. I always leave the chat bar right on the side so I can see what you guys say. And I always love comments. I love questions. So please feel free to send any questions you guys have. What else was I gonna say? Oh, I do talk and sign kind of fast. I'm a very fast talker. It's just always been that way growing up. And my signing does kind of go in with it. If there's ever a sign that you need repeated or if you need me to slow down, just let me know and I'll be more than happy to repeat it a few times. I try to kind of shift my body as much as I can so you can see what it would look like from another perspective to help you guys kind of see what the actual sign looks like. Let's see. I always have a list of things I want to add, and then Miss Katie comes in and says some of them, and I'm like, well, okay, gotta delete that, don't need that one. Um, and the good news is too with like this classes, we do record these classes, and so if you're ever not available to make it to one of our classes, you are more than welcome to watch the videos later. Um, we're not that kind of class where like, well, you miss it now, you don't get any of it. No, we want it to be accessible to all, and I get it, life gets busy. So you will always have access to the videos. Um, Goodness me. Trying to think of the list. Well, I'll just leave it at that. If anything pops up, I will mention it here. Oh, well, that was actually something. So I do talk and sign at the same time. Sometimes. Sometimes I can full stop my hand and just talk or things like that. That is, I always say, some people love to catch the signs I use, to kind of just get an extra like visual catching of things. Go for it. Totally great. Sometimes, though, I will say, because signing and talking at the same time is not the most effective way of communicating because it's using two languages at once. And so, with that, typically when you have one language is going to take priority, and then the other one is going to kind of slowly diminish. And so, it would be like if you were trying to talk in Spanish while writing in English. Okay, like visualize like you're trying to write the exact same thing, but you're talking in Spanish. It's very complicated. Things are going to be messed up. And so that's the same sort of thing. So I come in with a warning. If you are watching me sign in SimCom, which is this simultaneous communication, talking and signing, there may be signs that I may mess up on because my English is stronger right here. But there have also been times where my ASL has come in a little bit and my English has not made sense. And if that happens, I try to clarify, because that does happen as well. They both kind of flip on
That's what
each other,
I'm here for.
right? She's caught me a few times and was like, wait, Jillian, what? And I'm like, oh, that came out in ASL, didn't it? I need to fix my grammar real quick. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Tonight's class is going to be a little bit, it's going to be easier. It's going to be a kind of nice little beginner. What we're going to work with mainly is the ABCs and then a few short, simple phrases that will go with it. As our class progresses, we do have more content heavy classes. Um, just because I think since these videos are saved and recorded, I'd rather give you an access to a vocabulary, like a whole list of signs, rather than focusing on just these few simple signs. Especially you guys can work on at your home or different places, really practicing and building your sign. And obviously, this is just a starter ASL class. So, um, oh, okay, perfect. Thank you for asking me that. Yeah, this is probably one of the first times I've ever had everybody has got their cameras off. And I am totally flexible. I do typically, if you want feedback on your signs and kind of help with seeing it, I do recommend having your camera open. If you're not comfortable with that or you don't want to, that's totally fine. That's no pressure. We do typically have the cameras on if you can. But I also don't want anyone to feel stressed out. Oh, I gotta put my camera on. Or if you're not accessible, not have goodness me, access to getting your camera to work, that's fine. But if you could, I'll be able to see your signs better.
I would encourage you because Gillian caught me for like the first 2 years of this class. Every single time we did D, D, I would go F.
She
So
would.
just not even paying any attention. So anyway,
It helps. It does. I was trying to pull up my list to see if I have I mean, I know my ABCs, obviously, but my list of our questions for short phrases, and you know what? It's not pulling up. I
I've
think
got
my
them and I'll put them in the chat.
Because like I have my old list from way back in the beginning and I need to update it. And I typically what I'll do is I'll search in the emails to find your list so I keep up with it being the same. But
Yeah, I'll pull it up real quick while you're getting started
okay,
and put it in.
perfect. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do obviously is our ABCs. So the first letter we're gonna do, wait, let me pin myself. See if that makes it better. I typically try to put myself kind of on the top so you can see me and I stay in the same spot. Oh, girl, you fine. I hope he hits a home run at practice. Sorry, total distracted brain. I just saw that and I was like, I love it. Okay. Now our first letter obviously is going to be A. So for with A, you're going to have the four fingers bent down with your thumb on the side. Okay? This is actually going to be strange because I'm like looking only like I said, usually someone has their camera. Again, you don't have to. It's just I'm not used to having everybody fully this way. But so we have our A. Then for B, you're going to have your four fingers up with your thumb across. Okay. Then we have C. C is going to be what we always kind of think of with our C. So C. And then for no. Okay, so this is actually a good question. Are you talking about with being left or right-handed in the mindset, or are you talking about like actual shifting of your hand? Okay, good question. So, what's really nice about ASL is that being left or right-handed does not really impact the signs too much unless it is a sign where it really requires both. And so right now, because we're doing the ABCs, they're not really going to require both hands. So if you do your A here and your A here, they both work. B, same thing. C, these are both C's. Even if you went, I mean, this would probably not be comfortable, but this is your C. So most left and right should be pretty much the same in reverse. Okay. Then we have D. So D is going to think, oh, yeah, no, ask those questions. There are no silly questions. Okay. I'm being serious when I say that. I probably have asked that question before. So that's why I'm like, do it. Ask me. All right. For D, what you're going to do is you're going to have this like zero basically with your pointer finger up. To me, right here in my hand, because I'm left-handed, it looks like a B, but if you're right-handed, it literally looks like a lowercase d. So that's always like my little helpful tidbit is when you think about D, is it's your pointer finger and it makes like the D shape. Okay. Then we have E. So for E, what you're going to do is you're going to have your four fingers bent with your thumb across. And now it is very important you don't have it spread out like this too much. You want to have it rest and kind of lower. It's not full touching, but it is close. Okay. So we have E. Then for F, what you're going to do is you're going to have your pointer finger and your thumb come together. And this is F. Okay. Now we're gonna stop here. Yeah, I have to go through my like order to keep up process. How many letters we do at a time. And we're gonna go back and review A through F. Okay, so we had A, B, C, D, here, D, D. There we go. E, and then F. Okay. So for our next letter G, what you're gonna do is I like to think about like you're saying the little tiny little sign. All right. And then you're gonna turn it forward. So this is G. Okay. For H, you're gonna have the same position as G, but now with two fingers. Some people do close their thumb in. It really doesn't make a difference. Like I'm going back and forth and you can't even really tell. I mean, when I start moving my hand wild, you can, but you can't really tell. So it's whatever feels most comfortable when you're holding your H. All right. I is going to be your pinky up. And then J, we're going to make the J motion. Now, I do want to add a little fun story here because I will never forget the J motion when I was learning it the first time. My first ASL teacher, excuse me, I was in high school and she was teaching us ABC order in the beginning. And I remember she emphasized the importance of when you are signing the sign for J. I just went sign for J is you need to make sure it matches how the other person's perspective would be on the J. So to me, it looks like a backwards J, but to the person looking at it, it would look like it going in the right direction. Meaning right-handed people would go out, excuse me, and left-handed people would go in. So J. I was very strict on this and I was like I would emphasize all the time, must go this way, must be this way. And then about I think a year or two after we started this class, I had been noticing more and more at school, I was seeing kids who were right-handed doing their J's like this. And I would see even some adults doing their J's like this. I finally asked one of my coworkers, I was like, isn't it supposed to be this way for J? Like it's like, isn't that supposed to be like a big like, this is not right? And they were like, well, like officially, yes, but this is not gonna make a difference. Like it's still a J. You still know it's a J. And I will never forget that because I was so like strict about it and everything. I was like, okay, so I just made a whole big deal about a J just for like nothing. It's okay this way. It's okay this way. It's okay. Okay. So J, as long as you make the shape of a J, you're okay. I do still follow with my left hand going inside because I'm like, that was drilled in my brain. It's not going to go away anymore. So I always think that story is kind of funny to tell because I was so adamant about it in the beginning of this class. And then I finally, like, during one class went, hey guys, it's actually like fine. And then I was like, those people who took my class way back before, man, I'm sure they're like, you told me it had to be this way. So, but okay. So we had our J or J. Then for H-I-J-K, I had to think for a minute. We're going slow. For K, what you're going to do is you're going to start with the two symbol sign. You're going to have your middle finger slightly bend forward, all right? And then you're going to stick your thumb between the two. K. Now, this one is probably going to feel a bit uncomfortable. And the reason for that is because your fingers are not used to making those movements and those shapes. Okay. I'm sure you probably have not made this like symbol before normally without it being related to ASL. So your hand is probably going to be feeling a bit stiff, a bit sore, because your fingers are not used to bending in all these shapes like that. So K is one of those. Because I always see people, I love watching when everyone does it because they always go and like they like grab their wrist. They're like, "Ow, why is that not feeling right?" That's why. Okay. Then we're gonna do L. So then L is gonna be L, just like what you would think. hmm Then we have M. So for M, you're going to take your three fingers and go over your thumb. So for M, if you look at it, it really looks like the letter M. So like there's your first line, hump over and hump over, M. Okay? We'll do one more and then we'll go back. The next one for N is going to be similar to M, but now it's two fingers, N. Okay? Again, this one has that looks like a lowercase n. So I kind of have those little clues that would help me when I was learning. So I always like to add those here and there, even if they are kind of weird or different. I just try to throw them out to see if that'll help make that connection. And if it doesn't work for you, you can, which I mean, y'all's cameras aren't on, but you can smile and nod or just keep going. Some of them help people, some of them don't. So I always just kind of throw them out there. All right, so let's go back. We stopped on G. So if you remember, G was like doing the little pinch and then you turn it forward. So we have our G. Then we have H, two fingers. We have I is our pinky. Then J, J. K is the two fingers. Bring your middle finger forward and thumb. L, M, and N. Okay. So then for our next letter, we're going to do is O. O is very simple. It is just O, like a zero. Okay. Then for P, you're going to start in that same position we did for K. So the middle finger, the two fingers, middle finger forward, thumb between, and you're going to bend it down now. There you go. This one is probably one of the most awkward ones, especially in the beginning, because you're not used to K and then you have to go to P and it's like, what? So yes, so P, then Q is going to be similar to our G, and now you're going to bring that down. Q. hmm Then R is going to be crossing your fingers. hmm And S is going to be similar to A, but now you're going to put your thumb in front of your fingers. So S. Okay. Then we have T. T is going to be one finger over your thumb. And this one, I know it's not the best, but I used to always think because it looks like a T, I know it looks more like an X, but when I was seeing it, I thought it looked more like a T, like a lowercase t. Um, but if that does not help it, I'm so sorry. I realized after I kept saying, yeah, it's like a T, and I was like, that looks more like an X actually. So T. Then we have U, two fingers together. Okay. So U. V is very simple. It's exactly what you think it would be. It's just the two with it spread out. And then, so y'all are lucky. I know you're fixing her dress. These are the easy letters. I'm like, you got this one. This one is not that, these are not the difficult letters. Because then W is the three, what we typically think of with W. Okay. Then we have X. X is gonna look like a hook, like think like a pirate, okay? So you have like your little pirate's hook. And then Y is gonna be your thumb and your pinky out. And if you look at your hand shape, it looks like the shape of an actual Y. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then Z. Z is just going to be your pointer finger and you zigzag. Z. Mm-hmm. Very simple for Z. Okay. Let's go back through those letters. We stopped. Where did we stop? N. I had to think. All right. So we had O. So O is the zero. We had P, which is like K, but down. Like you're always snoring, Z, Z, Z. Then Q, I had to think for a minute. Q, so a little pinch pointing down. Q. R is you cross your fingers. And then S is that A again with the thumb over your fingers. T is the pointer finger over your thumb. Yep. U, two fingers together. Miss Katie, you're doing V. She skipped the letter. V is two fingers like this. W, and then X, Y, and then Z. Z. Okay. Let me read this comment real quick to make sure I understand. Like this? So I've actually not seen it that way. And with this one, I honestly wouldn't recommend. And the reason is because it looks more like an M. Like even though your pinky's covering your thumb, I could see this looking more like someone would think you're talking about the letter M. I see more of the S in front and crossed like this. So I would kind of recommend, I've really never seen a letter, the S with this. It could be slightly different, or it could even be a regional sign or even an older sign. So I'll go into this real quick, just to kind of touch base on it just a bit. So ASL is not a universal sign language. Every language has its own ASL or ASL. Every language has its own sign language. So there is Spanish Sign Language. There is also British Sign Language. It varies every country. And even with that, ASL even has, oh, I know, it's very cool. Trust me. I've never been so tempted to learn Spanish Sign Language. And I was like, I would have to learn more Spanish to do that. And I was like, that's a lot of languages. Maybe I'll wait. But it's very cool. Also with that, ASL has its own way of having accents and dialect. So you know like how up north, or how about this? We'll focus on the South. How in here in the South we say y'all, ain't, those kinds of phrases. That actually can have its own way of applying into ASL. Not specifically those words in general, but the actual concept of having different words that apply in the South versus in the North. It's very interesting to see, even for just the same words. I've seen a bunch of different signs for the sign for ketchup. Um, Even just going across the state. So Tennessee, I've seen ketchup versus ketchup. I see ketchup here. And then strawberry is probably one of my favorite ones. There's so many. And I love asking people when I meet people from other states, I'm like, what's your sign for strawberry? And everybody's got a different one. I've seen strawberry. I see here at ASL, Alabama is strawberry. But then I've seen strawberry. I've seen strawberry. I've seen strawberry, I think. I mean, they just vary. And so I wonder if that kind of sign was maybe one of those, or it could even be like an older sign. There's a couple of signs I've seen that older people use that have actually just been no more. Um, Again, same concept how with English and language, there are certain words we just don't say anymore, or that are just not used often or commonly enough, and they've kind of just been kind of lost in the generations. So a lot of that is the exact same thing that happens in English, happens in ASL. But that is an interesting one. I will actually double check with one of my coworkers tomorrow and see if they've ever seen that because I'm curious about that. But I would recommend doing this one because this is one I've seen everywhere. Okay. And I apologize. I will do that. I will add a lot of stories. I love telling stories. Um, oh, it does. It full on. ASL does have its own generational slang, and I'm telling you, it is for real. And it's one of my favorite things to see. I have to add a story here. I'm sorry. I have stories I have to tell. I think it makes it interesting and it's fun. So for those of you who, I mean, I can't see everyone's faces, so I don't know, we're around around the late 20s, age-wise now, 30s, 40s. Back in the day when we used to say the phrase OG, saying, oh, that's so OG. She's the OG, for being the starter. She's the phrase original gangster. And that phrase, I remember very often in middle school and high school, always using OG, blah, 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 just in talk. About a few years ago, I think I was in my second year teaching. One of the vet teachers who's like champ, she is deaf herself, I mean, she's grown up with ASL. She asked one of my coworkers, who and I were chatting at that time, who was also deaf. She asked her, hey, have you seen this sign? And I saw the conversation. I immediately said, there's no way. If she doesn't know it, I'm not going to know it. Some hearing girl who just learned ASL only a few years ago. No way I'm going to know this sign, know this word at all. And I see her do the sign. I can't even remember the sign anymore. Because I think it's just OG like that. And my coworker was like, "Can you spell it out for me? I don't like, what do you mean?" And so she's finger spelling it, and I'm watching her finger spell, and I'm catching letters, and I'm like, "Wait a minute. Original gangst." I was like, so I'm watching this conversation just waiting, and I'm like, I understood that one. So I kind of jumped in. I was like, are you talking about, and I finger spelled it back to her. I said, original gangster. And she goes, yes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I literally went, OMG. And she's like, what? Is it bad? Is there something wrong? Like, is it serious? Like, and I said, no, that's a phrase from like back in my days. And so slang will go through the generation in ASL, and it's really funny to see. And I remember we had to explain to her what it meant and all that because she was making sure it's okay and appropriate. I about laughed. And so I still am hoping for the day I get the word yeet. I'm hoping. I'm waiting for the day one of my students says yeet, and then I'm gonna be like, I'm so happy. Um, One of the really most recent popular ones is 6767, which I know even though that's like it's just the numbers 6 and 7, it's a very big deal. I have so many kids that love just if there's any math problem, because unfortunately, as the math teacher, that is what it happens. The kids will literally lose their minds. Ah, 6 7 6 7. And so yeah, slang, generational slang hits ASL just the same way. Sometimes I think hearing phrases will show up later, which is why I still have hope yeet will come back. I'm hoping for that one. I think that one was so funny. So it's very cool to see and very interesting just to see how things change and evolve, especially through a different language. But yeah, oh, that did remind me of something that I forgot. I'm trying to remember because like it was like very brief. Like one time I think it was just OG really fast. OG, like OG, she's OG. I'm trying to remember because I remember just I wouldn't have immediately caught the letters. But it was very similar just to a fast movement like this. And so, oh, I now remember what I was going to say. But yeah, it was an interesting, I could be wrong on that one. Not wrong, but like there was an actual sign. I need to see because I don't remember it. Like I said, it was very short. It popped up for like a month and then it literally dissolved. And I was like, that is very sad. That lasted years in public schools. So, trends come and go. But yeah, it was a very interesting conversation to see. Being said, I did want to come back to because I know I got very excited and I was explaining and I finger spelled really, really fast. And I just realized I was like, y'all are still have only learned the ABCs, and I'm over here just da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I wanted to kind of elaborate how ABCs in letters and things like that work. So, one of the nice things about learning the ABCs right now is that you could have a very simple, basic conversation with someone, especially if there was ever an emergency situation and you needed to communicate. Because what's really cool, I think that makes ASL cooler than like learning Spanish or French is that in Spanish or French, if you forget the word for something, how are you gonna how are you gonna explain the word mañana tomorrow if you forgot the word mañana and you like trying to think of it, you can't really sound out the letters to try to make it come through. You'd have to try to figure out how to describe it. And sometimes that can just be really awkward and hard to do. Like tomorrow, how are you gonna explain that sort of thing? In ASL, you can fingerspell a word. Even if you forget the word or have you not seen a sign for that word, you can fingerspell. And so what fingerspell is, which this is the sign for, it's I'm wiggling my fingers in a circular motion. That is when you spell a word out. So if I forgot the sign for cat and I went C-A-T, C-A-T, the other person I'm talking to would know I'm talking about a cat. And so it helps with when you're having a conversation, you don't lose that pace. You don't really like lose that. I don't know how to say this word. I don't know how to, like, you can still kind of keep going through. And so you could technically fingerspell an entire conversation. It would be exhausting because that's a lot of fingerspelling, but you could do it. So just a little fun fact there. Okay. Now I do want to talk about, and then we will let me add this here. Before we finish, we will do the ABCs again. We will review. I just thought I'd put that there. When you're finger spelling something, typically you're going to kind of keep it in a similar area, okay? And with that, for example, if I were going to be spelling my name, all right, I would go Gil. Now, I have two L's. There are two ways you can do it. First one is L, where I slide. LL, like I slide it across. IAN. So I keep it in this general spot. Right-handed people kind of keep it around here. And so what's really important is when you're spelling words, you don't want to do this aggressive bounce like this because it looks like you're just constantly getting in their face. Like if someone would kept coming up to you going, "Hey, how's it going? What's up?" Like that, that's what that is when you're bouncing the letters in that kind of motion. So you want to keep your hand kind of in a comfortable position and you kind of have a smooth change of letters. Now, it does take time to do that. Get that more fluid motion. But keeping your letters paced really out like this and calm will help you get kind of a smoother process. Now, I said that when you have double letters, there is the slide you can do. The other one is a double tap. Double tap. This is one time where the double tap is like the bouncing is okay. So Gillian. All right. So if you notice, I went Gil. I didn't go boom, boom, or boom, boom, boom. I went LLIAN. So I didn't continue the bounce. It's just for the for the two L's. Okay. So that's how you would do a double letter. You can do a slide or you can do the double bounce or double bounce. Either one works. I've seen both in different situations. It's really more of a preference than what is better or what is um the appropriate way. So, okay. I have talked a lot. I got on so many different stories. I got very excited to tell. What we're going to do right now is we're going to review the ABCs again. And then I do have a few more things to say. I apologize. It's the first night of class. There's a lot to talk about. Okay, well now I'm sorry, I have to talk. That was a good question. If you cannot see the chat, it says, how important is it to practice both hands for ABCs? It is pretty, honestly, it's a very useful tool to know your ABCs both hands. And I can even admit Doing it with both hands can be a struggle for me. My right hand, lousy, no help whatsoever. I only use it for if I'm actually in desperate need. If I cannot get my left hand out, I will try to fingerspell. And I'm gonna tell you now, it's like writing with right hand. So if you're a right-handed person and if you were to try to write with your left, that's how it is fingerspelling still. So if you're able to like fingerspell with both hands, that is awesome. And props to you. Comfortably. I'll say that. Comfortably. Me, I can do it, but like I leave lots of room for mishapsy like that. So, like signing with both hands is a very useful tool for sure. Okay, let's now review the ABCs real quick. So, we're gonna go all the way, A to Z. All right, so we had A, B, C, D, E. There we go. You're good. You're going, it's catching, but I'm waiting. F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, mhm, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Okay. So, since I cannot see everyone's faces, and I know I've harped on that, if you can send a thumbs up to let me know how you are feeling with the ABCs right now, it can either be in the chat or I think there's even a way where you can react if y'all want to, just so I can see how everyone. Oh goodness, everyone can. Okay, good. Okay, perfect. All right. I like, all right, perfect. I wanted to double check because I was like, I guess I'm so used to having like visual feedback that I was like, is everyone okay? Is everyone good? So I'm glad everyone went fast and was like, yes, good. All right, perfect. All right. So, what we're going to talk about, since we got about 15 minutes left, is I want to give you a few simple phrases that you can use. Mainly, the main ones are how you would say, am, my name is, and then also how you could say you're learning ASL, and then also asking someone for their name. All right. So, the first one, my name is. With ASL structure, you actually are not signing every letter, geez Louise, every word in a sentence. Gosh, I cannot talk. And so those verbs like are linking verbs like is, am, I think those are, yeah, is, am, are, were, typically do not have their own sign. They are already kind of embedded in the other signs. So it's not like it's not there, we don't need to worry about them. No, they're just already embedded in the context of our other signs. So when you are saying my name is, in ASL, you are actually just signing my name. Okay? Excuse me. So my name would be my, and this is how you would say anything that's mine is you have that open hand, like that's your ownership. So my, And then name is going to be two H's. Okay. And you're going to tap them. So, and it does not matter if you do your right tap or your left, either one. You will just tap one on top of the other. Name. And I do have it slightly like it's not coming in, it's going out, if that makes sense. So it is pointing more outward. So, okay, good. You didn't move either, Miss Katie, and I was like, wait, am I frozen? Had to double check. So you kind of point your like your H is pointing out away from you. There we go. Yeah. So my name. Okay. What you would do afterwards is then you would finger spell your name. All right. Now, with that, it does take a minute. And if you have a very long name and you are like, I do not want to spell all of that, you can just use like a nickname. So, if you wanted to just say, instead of saying Benjamin, you wanted to put Ben, you can fingerspell just Ben and be done with it. So that is something you can also work through. That's not a problem. But that's how you would say it. So my name and then me, Jillian. And again, please do not, I mean, again, I don't know, I'm not, don't know. Don't base your fingerspelling speed on me. I talk fast, so obviously I sign fast. And I have been fingerspelling for now it's been a decade. So it's very natural and very easy to me. And sometimes I even have to like grab my wrist to slow my hands down because they move too fast. So it is usually a lot slower. And just kind of has to have a little more thinking in. So I apologize if my finger spelling was really fast and it overwhelmed y'all. I've had some people in the past be like, whoa, what did you just do? And so I wanted to be like, I promise you can get there. When you practice enough, you can get there. Um, so let's see. So we did that, my name, and then you finger spell it. Then the next one I was going to teach is I am learning ASL. Okay. So the sentencing for that would actually translate into there are two ways you can do it, really. Me learn ASL. We're going to do that one because that is still a little bit English structure and it's a little bit easier to follow. There is the full-on in-depth ASL structure, which we will talk about later. I'm going to hold that for now. So when you're saying I am learning ASL, you would sign me learn ASL. Okay. So me is you're going to point to yourself. So me. And then the sign for learn is you're going to have your non-dominant palm up. And your dominant is going to be you're kind of thinking about like an octopus or a jellyfish, kind of flatten, like spread out here. And you're going to bring it up into your forehead. So, no, you're good. So, you have it flat and you're going to bring it to your forehead. And the reason for this is because this is like your textbook or your information, and you are literally sucking it in and bringing it to your brain. So, that's where the sign for like learn comes from. So, learn. All right. So, you go me, learn, and then go ASL. Okay. So, that's how you can tell someone that you are learning ASL. Then what was the other one? Oh, okay, another good question. So, technically, no, with mouthing. It is really good to not mouth as often because sometimes your mouth shapes will not match. And contrary to probably a lot of belief, which I can admit I was one of those people that thought so too, lip reading is not, first off, it's not as effective as you think it is. But also, not a lot of people have learned to understand lip reading. So when you mouth like this, saying, my name is Jilly, that is more distracting than it is actually helping. So typically you do kind of want to have like if I were to go voice off and go full sign mode, I would be like, keep my mouth kind of at a neutral tone. I wouldn't move it too much. Now that being said though, it's not always straight mouth, no movements. There are some signs and some words where your mouth does just move. Sometimes with me, I will naturally, if I'm really excited about something or really like passionate or some sort, even when I'm really frustrated, my mouth will still kind of move. And that's okay. It's just when you're trying to start off kind of basic, you do want to try to keep your mouth movement as limited as possible, mainly because it can cause more confusion when if they start seeing your mouth and it's distracting from the signs you're doing. So, yeah. The next sentence we're gonna do is how to ask someone for their name. Okay. So and we'll go more in depth on this in a few bit. Yes, no, okay. Let me actually explain this. I apologize. I did not clarify that. Facial expressions are very important. Um, what I meant by the mouth movements is more so you don't want to have this going on a lot. You want to be more relaxed. But facial expressions are very, very, very important in ASL. Um, when I meant by flat, I meant more so like your mouth is just not really doing that shape. I did not know how to describe that better. So it's more relaxed, because you do want your facial expressions to kind of keep, that is actually how you help identify specific things or how it helps identify specific things. And it actually leads right into asking WH question words. When you're asking a question, your eyebrows are very key indicators. And so, with that, if you're asking any WH, who, what, when, where, why, your eyebrows are actually, you're going to want them to go down, down. This is like having the question mark. Okay. So it may look like you're being mad. You're not, I promise. But your eyebrows do bring down, and that is to help them know that you're asking a question that needs an actual answer back. So, okay. And this would go with our sign. So that's one thing. I started on that. But the sentencing when you're asking a question is very, yes. I'm sorry. I loved that. That actually killed me. Yes,
That is
Botox,
hilarious.
probably not your best bet because I could just see the eyebrows staying constantly up here as you're asking a question, then being like, what is wrong with this girl? You'd have to clarify. I had Botox. Okay, I can't move my eyebrows before you started a conversation. Okay, I'm sorry. I loved that so much. No one's made that joke before, so that got me. Um, but what I was gonna say, when you're asking a WH question word, you really change the sentence a lot. So when you're asking for what is your name, the ASL structure would be your name what? Okay, so your WH question word goes at the end. And that is just to help clarify what exactly you're asking for to the person you're talking to. So the sign for your is going to be that open hand, and you're going to point to the, not point, you're going to have this in the direction of the person you're talking to. So your, and then you do the same sign for name. Okay. And then the sign for what is going to be what? What? And so you have the eyebrows down for that. So it's like your name, what? What? Your name, what? Mm-hmm. So it is can. Wow. Wow. English not there for a moment. ASL was taken over. Um, it can be a bit challenging in the beginning, especially with those question words. So do not stress. If you are like, that's a lot, that's so much, we will be going in depth more when we talk about all of our WH question words, and we will be focusing on that. So that is just a simple right now. Your name, what? Your name, what? Okay. So we had our my name, and then you fingerspell your name. We had I am learning ASL, me learn ASL. And then we had, what is your name? Your name, what? Okay. The last thing I'm going to mention before we will finish off, and I will give you all a break because I know it can be a lot if this is your first time ever being exposed to ASL, is one of the really, really cool things about ASL that I love so much is when you are talking to someone and you are having to say their name. sign spell their name. It's goodness. I cannot talk tonight. I do not know what's going on. They, instead of having to finger spell someone's name over and over, Jillian, Jillian, over and over, they have what's called a sign name. And what a sign name is it's a sign that is specifically assigned to you, and you can only get it from a deaf person because it typically relates to some personality characteristic of yourself. And with that, that means that when they first meet you, if you first meet a deaf person, you go, "Hi, my name is blah, 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 blah." They're not going to go, "Hi, nice to meet you. Your sign name is this now." They want to take the time to get to know you and really get to learn about you before they give you a sign name. It's a very cool experience to get and to see. And so I always love to just tell people if you really start talking to a deaf person more and more, and if you don't have a sign name, they will probably give you one. I think it's a very fascinating thing. My sign name is Jillian. So it's a G on the cheeks. And the reason for this is because when I was working in high school, when I was in ASL 1 or 2 in high school, I took, I think it was my senior year, but I was also in a cooking class and also in ASL. And we worked for a big catering service, and we helped provide, and we did it for AIDB, which is the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind, which is what I work under now. And we got to meet a lot of the people there, a lot of the different services. It was very cool. And after getting to know a few people, they asked me, they're like, "Do you have a sign name?" And I was like, "No, I don't have a sign name." And they're like, "Well, I'm giving it to you. It's Jillian." And I was like, and so I asked him, "Can you tell me why?" And so the reason for the Jillian, or the G right here, is because it's hard to tell, but my cheeks get really rosy and red just anytime I talk to anybody. And so because of it, it's my red cheeks coming on my redness coming on my cheeks, Jillian. That is something that I think is really cool, and it is very much me. I always get really red in the face. And right, I was thrilled. I will never forget the day after I finished. I literally was going around telling people, "I got a sign name, I got a sign name. It's Jillian," because my cheeks like, ah, da, da, da. It was a whole big thing. And especially because what I love is that it is very different from some other people's sign names, which I mean, I'm not like judging. I'm just saying, when you have the same sign name next to your heart or next to the corner of your mouth because you smile all the time, it's almost like when you have the same name John. When you see everyone's got the name John and it just gets very repetitive, that it's the same thing in ASL. When you have the same, it's like different, like the different letters over here, or it's like right here, right here, right here. It's all in the mouth or the heart because oh, you're soft-hearted or you always smile. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that. It's just it's very often and very common. So when you get anything that's slightly different from that, it's always like, wait a minute, mine actually is different. Yes. So, but sign names are just so cool. And like I said, you have to get it from a deaf person. You really cannot get it from a hearing person. It does not work. Um, and you do really want to, and if you ever do get one, ask them why. Like, tell me why you gave it to me for this reason. Because it's always got a cool story. So, and then another thing I'll add, and then I promise I will stop. I promise we will finish here, is when a baby is born to deaf adults, they will give them their actual name, but they will wait until that baby is about a year or two old before they officially will like give them their sign name because they wait for the personality of the baby to start kind of coming out a bit. And I think that is actually just really fascinating and cool because you're given your name at birth, even before knowing your personality, knowing what you're like. And so to see something else be given to you related with your name, but waiting for that personality to kind of show up, I think it's just awesome. And so I'm very biased. I know, I can admit it, but I just think it's cool. So sign names are awesome. But okay. I know we talked a lot. Um, I was going to provide a few little bit recommended sources on how to practice your finger spelling. One of the best ways to really strengthen your finger spelling skills is by finger spelling anything that you see around you. So what I mean by that is I will like I'm looking right now in my kitchen and I see a refrigerator, I see an oven. What I typically will do is I will look at those and I will finger spell those words. So oven, refrigerator, which I can't really spell. That's why I did it fast. I have to really think on that one, I'll admit. And I just practice finger spelling those over and over again. Just those kinds of things to kind of help think about it and how you would finger spell it.
Just so
And then,
y'all know, I have got to say this. Just so you'll know how wild our last class was, we learned the sign for zombie apocalypse. And I also learned that Jillian will let you kind of sneak away without spelling the word correctly. Because I said, I'm a librarian, but I can't spell apocalypse every time. Like, I can't remember where the O's and the A's go. And Jillian was like, if you just, get started, they'll figure out where you're going, especially if it's after zombie. And I was like, oh, like context is going to work for me here. I don't have to know how to spell it.
oh yeah, I usually, because like with this being the first, like some people's first time with ASL, I always am like, yeah, fingerspell, you got to fingerspell the whole word. Just a hint, if it's a long word, if you get the first few letters in the beginning and kind of just ooh, in the middle and then go at the end strong, you should be okay. I would still, because you're learning it and AB and you're learning your ABCs, how to fingerspell. I would try to fingerspell all the letters, but there are certain words that are just kind of ridiculously long, like anesthesiologist, which we will talk about later. And the reason why I brought that up, there's a very specific joke with that. But if you did anesthesiologist, like kind of just did the little, someone's probably gonna catch on, especially when you're talking about going to the doctor and you had to get a shot or things like that. You can pick up on the context clues to know that what you're talking about. And it does help a lot. Now, does not say if you have a very short and easy word like dog or meal or food, fingerspell all those. Like those you can fingerspell all the way through. Um, it's just those really long words that even like when you're typing them, you almost have to like pronounce them or you have to like Google search how to spell them. Those are those typical words that are like, it's okay. Um, but oh, and then the final thing I was gonna say is if you are ever in the car, not driving, but if you're like a passenger and you're passing billboards. That is a really fun way to kind of test how fast you can fingerspell. I love to look at all the like the words, the phrases, and I will, depending on how confident I feel, I will try to fingerspell as many letters as I possibly can um in the billboard before we pass it. And that honestly, I think really did help me pick up on my finger spelling to be a little bit quicker because I was constantly testing myself on how fast I can finger spell the billboard before it left or we left before we passed it. So that is just my some of my recommendations with ABCs. You are also more than welcome to obviously check this video to review your ABC letters. I do encourage to really at least start with your ABCs because, like I said, at least with ABCs, you can have some form of a conversation, even if it's very minimal and very small. You could still have a basic conversation if need be. So, okay, so we'll stop here for tonight. Next week, we will start doing our numbers signs, and those are also really fun. But I also, again, biased math teacher. So, but I want to leave y'all with this because I try to do this a few classes if I remember in time. But I want y'all to think about the fact that you can, on one hand, next week, you will learn how to sign all the way up to 999 on one hand. Okay? I just want to add that little tidbit. That's what we're going to be learning. And I promise you, it's going to be the coolest little party trick and party favor you could ever like show people, like, haha, look what I can do. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week, and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.